What if I told you that America once fought a war, not with muskets on a battlefield, not with armies marching through foreign cities, but essentially because France wouldn't stop touching America's stuff? No formal declaration of war. No grand speeches about liberty and justice. Just a deeply irritated John Adams, a bunch of stolen ships, and the kind of diplomatic tension that makes a Thanksgiving family argument look positively civil. Welcome to the Quasi War, and honestly, it might be the most relatable conflict in American history. Let's set the scene. It's 1798. America is a toddler nation, barely a decade into its grand experiment of self-governance, still figuring out how a republic actually works in practice. Meanwhile, France and Britain are locked in their never-ending European grudge match, and America is desperately trying to stay neutral. Classic middle child energy. Don't look at me, I'm not involved, please leave me alone. But neutrality was easier said than done. Britain was seizing American merchant ships. France was seizing American merchant ships. Everyone, apparently, decided that American merchant ships were basically communal property available to whoever needed them. It was the international law version of your roommate eating your clearly labeled food in the fridge. The label said, America's. Everyone ignored the label. Now here's where France specifically decided to escalate things from annoying to genuinely offensive. After the Jade Treaty of 1794, where America signed a commercial agreement with Britain, France threw an absolute diplomatic tantrum. How dare America do business with their enemy? The French Republic, which had conveniently forgotten that America also needed to, trade to survive, responded by authorizing their navy and privateers to raid American shipping in the Atlantic and Caribbean. Hundreds of American vessels were captured. Cargo was seized. Sailors were essentially kidnapped. France had decided to weaponize theft as foreign policy. Enter John Adams, a man who had absolutely zero patience for this nonsense. Adams is chronically underrated in the American historical consciousness, largely overshadowed by the more charismatic founders. But Adams had a spine made of pure granite and a temper that could strip paint. When he learned about France's little raiding hobby, he was livid. He sent diplomats to negotiate. France responded by demanding a bribe before any talks could even begin. This is known historically as the XYZ affair, because the actual French agents were diplomatically named X, Y, and Z to protect their identities, which tells you everything about how shameless this extortion attempt was. Adams's response to the bribe demand became legendary. Millions for defense, but not 1 cent for tribute. Which, translated into modern language, is essentially, I will absolutely spend enormous amounts of money fighting you before I give you a single dollar to stop being awful. It is perhaps the most economically aggressive way anyone has ever said no to a shakedown, and it remains genuinely admirable. So began the Quasi War. Notice the word quasi. Because even the name of this conflict is passive-aggressive. It wasn't officially declared. Congress never formally said, we are at war with France. Instead, they passed a series of laws that basically said, go ahead and fight them at sea, but let's not make a big thing of it. This is the 18th century equivalent of muting someone on social media rather than blocking them outright. Technically diplomatic. Completely hostile. The newly expanded American Navy performed remarkably well, all things considered. The USS Constellation famously captured the French frigate L'Insurgente in 1799, which was a significant naval victory and an enormous boost to national morale. America was proving that it could actually defend itself on the water, which was important for a nation that depended heavily on maritime trade. The undeclared naval campaign in the Caribbean successfully disrupted French raiding operations and demonstrated that American sovereignty wasn't entirely theoretical. Here's the delicious irony lurking at the heart of this whole episode. America owed France enormously. Without French support during the Revolutionary War, the United States might not have existed as an independent nation at all. France had backed the underdog revolution financially and militarily. And now, barely 15 years later, these same two countries were shooting cannons at each other's ships in the Caribbean because of trade disputes and unpaid diplomatic bribes. Friendship really does have its limits, particularly when one friend keeps stealing the other's commercial vessels. Adams eventually navigated the whole situation back toward peace through the Convention of 1800, also called the Treaty of Mortefontaine. Both sides essentially agreed to stop being ridiculous and reset the relationship. Adams considered this diplomatic resolution one of his proudest achievements, which is politically interesting because it cost him support among Federalists who wanted a full war with France and contributed to his losing the 1800 election to Thomas Jefferson. He literally sacrificed his presidency to avoid an unnecessary war. The man made a genuinely statesman-like decision and the voters punished him for it. American politics, ladies and gentlemen, operating exactly as designed. The Quasi War doesn't get nearly enough attention in the popular historical imagination. It sits awkwardly between the Revolution and the War of 1812, too small to generate mythology, too undeclared to feel official, too complicated to summarize neatly. But it established something genuinely important. It proved that America would defend its commercial interests militarily, that the new republic had both the will and developing capacity to project naval power, and that John Adams had considerably more backbone than his reputation sometimes suggests. It was, at its core, a war fought because France couldn't stop touching America's stuff. America responded by building a navy and making the message very clear. Touch the ships again and we will make this significantly more unpleasant for everyone involved. As diplomatic communications go, cannons are remarkably unambiguous. This has been episode 2 of The Republic's Reckoning, and if you've made it this far, clearly you understand that the most absurd historical conflicts are often the most revealing. If you enjoyed this journey into America's most passive-aggressive naval conflict, please like this video, subscribe to the channel for every episode in this series, share it with someone who thinks history is boring, and drop a comment below telling me which American conflict you want us to tackle next. See you in the next episode.